All right, I have a confession. I am a die-hard Ellen Hildebrand fan. Anyone else? I've gone down the rabbit hole of all of her books, and when I heard that the book, The Five-Star Weekend, might be turning into a TV show, and Jennifer Gardner was going to be the starring role, hello. I had to read it because Jennifer is my girl. She's a relative. She doesn't even really realize that she's my relative. I have loved her since Alias, and I've seen everything that she's been inside. And I have forgiven her for Ben Affleck. But I digress. So I ended up listening to the audiobook while I was packing up the last few pieces of my life in Boston. And if you haven't read it, this is not a spoiler at all. If you haven't read it, the whole story kicks off with Jennifer Gardner, or Hollis is the character's name. She suddenly loses her husband and she has to figure out what her life looks like without him. And she thought she knew exactly who she was, but now everything's changed and she has to pretty much start all over. And for me, somewhere between the tape gun and the Tower of Boxes, I've had to pause because that hit a little bit different for me. No, no one died. Philip is very much alive and still giving me shit about how many pairs of leggings I have. But because I'm leaving 30 years of my identity behind in Boston, like my gym, my people, my routine, the version Boston Kim, right? There's people who have reached out to me. They're like, Kim, I don't know who you are without Boston. And I never realized that like Boston was such my personality, although I do realize it because I'm down here in Florida now and I was at the grocery store and people are making conversation with me. And I was like, what? Why are you talking to me? And trying my best to not have the like, what the fuck face when people start randomly talking to me about nothing. And so just like Hollis, I'm standing here and I'm like, okay, now what? Like, this is my new life. So let me take you back a second. So I first moved to Boston in my 20s and I only knew my roommates, right? I went to college here, but most people had moved away. And somehow I found women who pulled me in and said, hey girl, you're one of us now. And those friendships, they became everything. And in my 30s, I started my fitness career, right? And although it did have a little bit of a chokehold on my life, right? I was competing, I was training, I was always chasing something. But this is where I also met some of my closest friends and built the career that I have today. Yeah, it had a grip, but it gave me something too. And then I hit my 40s and I generally thought I'm good. I have a great support system, a great amount of friends, loving husband. I'm all set. And then, life went ahead and introduced me to new people. And I was like, okay, I didn't know I needed this as a friend group. And then somewhere in my late 40s, I finally started to chill the hell out. Thank you, menopause. Truly. And I stopped acting like my life revolved around tracking my macros, chasing that workout, always having to be sore, earning my worth in the gym. I broke up with a scale. They still call me, but I'm like, new phone, who this? And I woke up and I walked away from those soul crushing go big or go home workouts. And I started asking myself different questions. Like, what does my life look like if fitness doesn't support it? If it doesn't run it, right? Like, what if my life was supported by fitness versus run by fitness? And that was a big shift because I remember, and I've shared this with you guys several times, I would like literally like it would be like if I couldn't get my workout in, my whole day, week was just like trash. And I was just like a real bitch to be around. And those shifting thoughts over the last decade, I had no idea that this was just the beginning, right? Because now here I am recording my first podcast ever in Jupiter, Florida, and 30 years of my life in Boston, it's in the rearview mirror, right? Right now, I'm living here and I'm like, oh my God, is this my house? Like, I feel like I'm in this like extended stay Airbnb because I'm looking around and I still am trying to figure out where stuff is. And 30 years of my life in Boston, it's in the rearview mirror. And my routine, blown the hell up. I don't have a gym. I don't know any people yet. I don't even know what my days are going to look like. This is the first day in about 2 weeks. I'm sitting at my desk and I'm actually planning to sit here and work the entire day. Like, not be like, okay, if I can squeeze this in and then I'm going to go make sure I pack the bathroom and then come back. And I'm literally like, this is the first full day of work for me. And And I'm like, okay, I don't know how many frogs I'm going to kiss before this actually feels like home. And if I'm being honest with you, I'm struggling with this change more than I expected. Multiple times I've said to Philip, I'm like, are we doing the right thing? And he's like, girl, we signed the paperwork. There's no turning back. You can't just return a house. There's a little bit more than you kept the receipt involved. And I've been it's like I've been sitting here, I've been staring at these like blue plastic bags full of my clothes, and I'm like, I don't know where to put this stuff. Like, I don't have a dresser. I had a custom built cabinet system that had cubbies for everything. Now I have to actually hang shit up. Hang shit up? I cannot. And Philip, bless his heart, looked at the bags and he goes, Kim, do you really need 20 pair of black leggings? Sir, sir, stay in your lane. First of all, yes. Second of all, I basically live in loungewear every single day. So, yeah, I need the black leggings so I can leave the house, but I also need my loungewear so that I can lounge around my house. So, stay in your lane. You do you, boo. And the thing that keeps me from spiraling is that like I don't really have a routine right now, but I have standards, right? Because it's really easy to feel like, a balloon flying away if you don't have standards. But here's what this move is showing me that I wasn't expecting, that it's okay to have less hustle in your life. And I don't mean it in this like big dramatic way. I mean like the small stuff, right? So like saying yes to mahjong. I went to took a mahjong lesson class last week. I suck. I don't really know what's going on, but I'm giving it a shot. Right? I'm going to bed early because I'm looking forward to this oh my God, Emily Henry book that I just got, The Big Beautiful Life. And I know it's probably going to wreck me in the most best way, but I'm really looking forward to that. And instead of saying, oh, we should get together sometime, I'm like really going to say, okay, let's get together sometime and actually put a date and a time in my damn calendar. Because when I put a date and a time in my actual calendar, it actually happens, right? So that's my move right now. And because packing up 30 years of my life will teach you real fast was that I was really good at building a routine when I knew all the pieces, right? I could like lay out the pieces like a puzzle and I could be like, okay, this piece goes here. You know how most people are like, let's start with the ends, right? I could do that. Like the ends go here and this goes here and that goes here. But right now, I'm like, I don't know. Like I have a few ideas about what gym I should join. I have a few ideas about like, what does my grocery store look like? I don't live in a town with five Trader Joe's and five Whole Foods, right? But I'm like, there's a Publix down, and I'm like, oh, there's a few things they don't have that I normally buy. Like, am I gonna be okay not using those? Can I find an alternative? Am I gonna have to shop online? Right. So these are all the questions, right? Back in the day, I had everything all mapped out. It was like I could run around my grocery store in 30 minutes or less and be in and out because I knew exactly where everything was, right? I had it all planned out. But now I get to choose. I get to start from scratch. And honestly, it's a bit terrifying, but it's also kind of thrilling because it allows me to like start to think differently about my approach, right? Because I spent, I don't know how many years hustling and grinding for the life that I wanted, right? I had to earn my rest. I had to earn my food. I had to earn permission to enjoy things. And I'm done with that. And I don't want to live my life anymore. I don't want to have to earn my way. I don't have to hustle and grind. I took such pride in being a hustler, right? I took such pride in being a grinder. And I have a good friend of mine, and he's probably about not quite 10 years younger than me, but within 10 years of me. And he had a stroke, and he had a stroke from the grind. And I'm grateful that I've slowly started to pull back from the grind. And I'm grateful that it wasn't a health issue that caused me. It was more like a I can't, right? I ran into the brick wall and I was done trying to pick myself up from the brick wall. And here's the part that no one really talks about, and what I've been trying to work through with my clients is that when we keep trying to force old routines into a new life for a life that it was never designed for, it means it's time for us to think about something else. And so many of us want that like old routine, right? Because it served us in a previous life. But I have to look at this life right here. And in this life right here, I don't know what that looks like, right? And for some of you, it could be that what you did, in your 30s, in your 40s, isn't going to work for you in your 50s. I think about that in my 30s, I was going to the gym 2 times a day. I was working out at least 2 hours a day. I was, spending a good few hours meal prepping my meals. One, I don't have the patience for that anymore. Two, the desire to do that anymore, and I'm out. But it doesn't mean I've like thrown out my health. It's like I have figured out how do I fit my health into my life versus it being like, the sun and my health, my rest of my life revolves around my health and my fitness, right? Because if you're feeling like your old routine like is like starting to not fit in your life, and I see it all the time. I see women come to me and they're like, Kim, back in the day, I used to be able to. And I'm like, you know what? Throw it out the window. Like, because unless you have the same exact amount of time, if your life looks exactly like it did 10 years ago, then great. We can figure out a plan. But if your life doesn't look the same, that routine, we have to break up with it. And just because you're breaking up with a routine doesn't mean you're throwing in the towel. You're just trying to evolve it, right? We're trying to get to a place that like you don't feel like you have to check every single box in order to feel complete. And I see it with you. You have 100 things on your to-do list, and if you got through at least 90 of them, you wouldn't think you're accomplished. Like you're like, oh, but I didn't get through these last 10, but you did. And so if you're starting to kind of question your life. You know what? This is too much. Like, uncle, like, is this all that life has to offer? And like, maybe there's a version of your life that has a little less hustle and something else other than grinding. You're not off track. You're just ready for something new. And maybe, I was having a conversation with my coach and we were talking about, 40 something women versus 50 something women. And I think 40 something women, we start to like stop giving a shit. And I think about there's it started probably last year on TikTok. It's like we do not care the we do not care club. And this woman Melanie, she shows up on social media, and she has a notepad and like pens all in her hair, and she writes down like we do not care, and she writes down all the things that we get to that age that we do not care. And this is kind of an extension of that. Like, have you got to that point where and look her up? It's like I think it's called the We Do Not Care Club, but like you get to that point where like there's certain things that you just don't care about anymore. And it's not that you don't want health. It's not that you don't want fitness. You just don't want it the way that you used to have to get it. And I will tell you that ship has sailed, especially in your 40s. But what I want you to say is that you're not off track. You're just ready for something new. And this move to Jupiter is showing me that even more so. Like I've already stripped away a lot of things around my health and my fitness to make me not great as less crazy. I think I always have a little bit of that crazy gene in me, but I knew I wanted something new. And here, like my routine, brutal honesty, I have not worked out in like 3 weeks. One, I just really have not had the time between getting all of my stuff on the truck to Florida and then getting my house ready for sale, and then getting here to Florida, waiting for the truck to arrive, unpacking, all of that. I really have not had the time. Have I hit my steps? No, I have not hit my steps. I've come close a lot, but I've done two things. I've made sure that I've gotten protein every single day, and I've made sure that I've gotten at least 7 hours of sleep. That's all I can do, and be okay with that, right? And when I really look at it, right, this season of my life is looking more about wandering, right? Being more of a wanderer in my life and like figuring out what it's like to connect with people again so that my husband isn't my only friend. Before COVID, I would be a regular attendee at networking events. And I stopped doing that during COVID and I really became a hermit. And now I have to put myself back out there. And, for many of you who have met me in person, like they're like, that's easy for you. And I'm like, I'm an intro extrovert. Like if the room isn't giving me good vibes, I want to be like, peace. But I also like being home and the what it takes for me to like put on like real pants and a button and go out. It takes a lot of energy for me to do that. And, in this season, I'm giving myself more time. I used to always felt like I used to teach 2 days a week, and it was just my way of getting out of the house. It was just fun for me. And, the question people were asking is like, are you going to do that again? And right now, I'm like, I want to find out what fun is like without having a mic strapped on my head and having to be there. What would fun look like? What does play look like that isn't a paycheck? Because, a lot of you, I've been posting about this on my social media, and a lot of you have written back to me and they're like, I don't really know what a hobby is. Like us Gen Xers, we never were encouraged to have hobbies. We were hustlers, we were grinders. And honestly, I'm just kind of figuring out what play looks like. But on the flip side of that, I'm really kind of like starting to learn like what is it like to just sit on my couch and watch a movie? What would it be like to sit on my couch and really get into the TV show 5 Star Weekend and not be scrolling on my phone or writing something down or thinking about something else I should be doing? Like just actually sitting there and be like, I read the book. How closely is this following the book? I will tell you, I was a little disappointed in The Perfect Couple, but I don't want to do any spoilers just in case you didn't. So I do encourage you to read the book, fabulous, and then watch the Netflix series, and then let's talk because I don't want to be the spoiler police here. I do think it's very interesting that they made Nicole Kidman dance, but other than that, I don't want to put any spoilers, and so. I'm just trying to understand like what does it feel like to just have more wander time, because the next few months I will be a wanderer as I flip back and forth between here and Boston, trying to sell my house, connecting with new people here. What does it feel like to just have a true hobby and play and sit on my ass? And I'm trying to give myself the summer to just chill. And what does actually chill mean? And what season is this at? Well, what season is my life asking for right now? And if this hit you, um, come come tell me come tell me in the DMs. I have spent so many years hustling for everything I've ever wanted. And so if you're feeling like your old routine just doesn't fit anymore, like you've done all the things and something still feels off, like maybe this version of your life has less to do about hustle and a lot more to do about everything else. Girl, you are not off track. You're just ready for something new. And it's okay to let go of your old self. We hold on for so long because we all like certainty, right? It's one of I think it's Maslow. If you're a psychology person, holla if I'm wrong. But it's like we like certainty. Certainty feels really good. But if you're ready for something new, so am I, right? I'm in it right now. It's happening. And I'm building something for that woman who's done earning her lifestyle and really wants to actually live it And, more on that soon. But right now, I want to hear from you. Are you feeling this? Does any of this hit home? Screenshot this and DM me on Instagram and just let me know, like, where are you at? Like, what's like made you go, what made you go, like, not along? Because that's exactly why this podcast exists, to like open the conversation and start talking about this. All right, Magic Makers, I will talk to you next week. Enjoy the rest of your week.